fastest growing fantasy sports apps. Use code DRIVE for a credit up to $100 match on your first deposit. That's code DRIVE. Must be 18 years old. Promo code, location, and other restrictions apply.
Looking for a unique point of view on pro sports game analysis? Then tune in to Big C Sports Podcast on iHeartRadio. Get real sports talk worldwide. Miss a live episode? Replay it on demand on the iHeartRadio app. Join Big C, former NFL player and longtime award-winning radio broadcaster, covering all sports including NFL, NBA, MLB, UFC, NCAA, USL, and more. Tune in live or on demand on iHeartRadio Podcast today.
Sling gives you a custom channel lineup that lets you do game day your way. Get your must-watch games on channels like ESPN, ESPN2, SEC Network, and Big Ten, starting at just $40 a month. The biggest games, the hottest rivalries, and the teams you love. Everything about college football that makes you want to rush the field. Sling lets you do that. Go to sling.com/score to choose your channel lineup today.
There you go now. Oh, that's it. If you've been thinking about buying a home, you need to be in the zone, the home buying zone. You need a game plan to win in this great real estate market. The Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage has all your bases covered. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, purchasing your dream home, refinancing, consolidating debt, or even considering a reverse mortgage, contact the Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage today. They have the lowest closing costs and they'll close your loan on time, guaranteed, or they'll pay your... They even have a 3.5% purchase down payment grant that can get you into a home with little money out of your pocket. It doesn't get more clutch than that, folks. Score big on the biggest purchase of your life. Call Equity Zone Mortgage today at 1-800-772-8624. That's 1-800-772-8624. Or apply online at equityzonemortgage.com and tell them Big C sent you as heard on the Big C Sports Podcast.
Grando Deportes, Bonjour, Vini Vici. Let's get ready to rumble. Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton of Big C Sports. This is Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to me and people who love the universe, and that would include you. What a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day in the neighborhood. Won't you be mine? Won't you be mine? Won't you be my neighborhood? Shut up, fool! It's 3 o'clock in the morning. I got to go to work. Well, I told you I was voted neighborhood spokesperson, and I'm trying to bring the neighborhood together. But some people don't like it when it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and I don't blame them. If you voted for me, I told you, count all the votes. Had you counted all the votes, you would have realized my twin was neighborhood spokesperson, and he liked to sleep in. I don't like to sleep in. I don't like to sleep in. What a beautiful day in the neighborhood on Big C Sports Podcast on a beautiful Tuesday, October the 8th, 2024. As I've told you many, many times, today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac Dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, tell them sit you where the good Lord split you. And hopefully the good Lord didn't split you too wide. If you got a white split, you got to stop going to those fast food eateries. They put a lot of white split in the grease. Allegedly a lot of white split in the grease. I've noticed I did my own experiment. When I was feeling like I wanted to eat the 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, and pickles and onions on the collard greens, and it's grilled collard greens too, and a bun, it made my butt size got a little bit bigger. But when I started eating more lettuce and melons and exercising and eating nuts, the more nuts I eat, the better shape I'm in. What kind of nuts you eat, see? Walnuts. I eat walnuts. That helps me lose weight. It's good for you. It's good for your kidneys. It's good for your knees. It's good for a lot of things. I got some college football to talk about today. I got Big C's Power Rankings. Also, the good old boys In NHL hockey, they're dropping the puck down in Florida. They're celebrating the championship. And then at the same time, also NFL football touchdown. Patrick Mahomes was doing his thing last night. In Kansas City, they covered the point spread. What? They say, yeah, they covered the point spread. All's fair in love and war. And then, Major League Baseball swinging the bat. I can't wait to see the Dodgers and also the San Diego Padres. All's fair in love and war at Petco Field. I want to say with Big C Sports Podcast, I always produce the show. I direct the topics. I broadcast all the shows. I do all the sound effects based on the platform provided by the agency. We should all have more laughter in our lives. I know I could use more laughter. And as I always tell you, the commercials are done. The stats are provided. I even do the storytelling. And then I do the play-by-play. Mookie Betts up to the bat. The runners on first and third. That counts for the pitch. Curveball. Swung on. Hit the center field. Back to the wall. Home run. Say hello to my little friends. I love the saying. The girls love the long ball. And men love to hit deep. The Dodgers got to hit deep tonight down at Petco Field because those good boys in San Diego, they got a little bit of confidence. You don't want to give a young man confidence when you that old man. I heard a story. I don't know if it's true or not. It was in church. My pastor, he was a farmer, so he said he had a story to tell the congregation. They said, "What's the story, Pastor?" He said there was a story of some young bulls, and they were walking around the pasture. And one of the young bulls said, "Look at those pretty young calves. Let's run down there and have some fun with them." With one of them. And the old bull said, wait, freeze. He said, "How about let's walk down there and have fun with all of them?" You got some praise. The Dodgers got to have some fun with all of them. If that makes sense, yeah. Don't run, walk. Take your time and do it right. The SOS man told us back in the day, take your time and do it right. I love having fun with Big C Sports Podcast. And then the show is uploaded to 29 podcast applications out of New York City and streaming on 4 TV platforms: Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Number 10, I never missed a show. I never missed a show since starting Big C Sports with the crew back in the day at Salem Media. And now we have people who miss practice. I'm not talking about the game. I'm talking about practice. Now we have people who miss practice. I want to say thank you to Xfinity, Comcast TV, and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports all over the world, all over the United States, and all over the sea to the universe and beyond, to infinity and beyond. Buzz Lightyear said that, if that makes sense to you. Really do appreciate that. And I also want to do something that I love doing with Big C Sports Podcast because it's really near and dear to my heart. We all love our military veterans. We are free from sea to shining sea because our veterans, they give it all that they had. They put it all on the line. And I love giving them the Veterans Crisis Hotline. If you know anybody, a veteran or anyone else going through issues, you can get some help. You pick up the phone and call 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, you go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. And when you do, you want to give them some praise because we all need somebody to lean on, and they really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. And that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I want to tell you, there's something that I love doing with Big C Sports Podcast, and I think sometimes it's better to let you hear on your own. Now, I might do it myself, but I also got an excerpt that I want to play just for a few seconds, and you can follow it. Some major things have been happening in my life, Moet manifestations, and I really do feel like it's coming from chanting and praising. Instead of getting up in the morning at 6 o'clock, I get up at 5 o'clock. I'm out walking at 6 now doing my power walk as opposed to waiting until 7:30 or 8 o'clock. And I got more day to get things done. But I want to trust God and that Buddha chant that's been doing things opening my life, and hopefully it can open yours. I want you to listen to it. It just takes a few seconds, and maybe, just maybe, it can help you too. I'm telling you, I'm doing something different with Big C Sports Podcast. I love getting into the Buddha chant. I love giving God praise, and I love trying to make everything happen in a quantum leap. I gotta have a quantum leap all over the Big C Sports universe. Big C Sports TV coming soon. Open your eyes and pay attention. Nam Yoho Ncaa. I told you it's different. I told you, Nam Yoho Ncaa, Nam Yoho Ncaa, Nam Yoho Ncaa. One of the most significant attributes of Nichiren Buddhism is its easily accessible patience in the practice of chanting Nam Yoho Ncaa, Nam Yoho Ncaa, Nam Yoho Ncaa. This profound yet simple method of Buddhist practice is the perfect Buddhist teaching for the modern world. In Big C Sports Podcast, I want to bring chanting in Big C Sports all over the universe. I'm going to keep bringing it all over the universe. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. This is not your great-granddaddy's sports show. I tell you, I love what I'm doing with Big C Sports Podcast. I'm going to keep going doing it from sea to shining sea. Everybody has their own flavor, and my flavor is to bring you the Big C Sports chant. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. You know, I tell you, there's a lot of things that I want to bring to the forefront with Big C Sports Podcast. And before I get into my show with the sports, I have some things I want to talk about with AI. Allen Iverson? No, not Allen Iverson. AI is called artificial intelligence. I'm bringing that to Big C Sports Podcast. In fact, it's already there. That's why if you say the name Big C Sports Podcast, it opens up all over the world. So I have some things I want to talk about with AI because I know that's the way the world is going. The AI startups valuation has risen by more than $70 billion. An article from the New York Times, I'm going to bring that to you from the New York Times. But before I get into that, I got to bring you a guide to protect, preserve, and transfer wealth. The RDC Team Resource Development Consulting Inc., in conjunction with the Law Office of Attorney Scott Thibodeau and the Law Office of Attorney George Jones Esquire, the Missing Link Long-Term Care Solutions by the Book, over 3 decades of experience helping seniors get their benefits. Medicare and You, taking care of tomorrow. In California, it's called Medi-Cal. In other parts of the country, it's called Medicaid. Your family and spouse can avoid the spin down for nursing home costs. You can find out your options, 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624. And when you do that, you gotta tell them that Big C sent you. Now, we specialize to navigate and maximize long-term care benefits by the government's book, Protection of Your Assets Without a Spin Down. Did you say Aflac, BC? No, Aflac's Gap Insurance. That's the duck. We don't have ducks in our office. You can find the ducks at the restaurant because they can't protect their own assets. We don't have assets. We have asset protection. There's a difference. Without the spin down, you got to realize that the asset test is over in California. All paperwork and communication with all government agencies are handled by a staff of entitlement specialists, ongoing consulting to provide updates as necessary, benefits covering skilled nursing facilities, prescription medications, medical equipment costs, and more. Have you ever known anyone that needs skilled nursing facilities? Have you ever known anyone that needs prescription medications? Have you ever known anyone that dealt with medical equipment costs and more? But not only that, protection of your assets. I've been told I have a speech impediment, and I'm trying to talk faster so my words don't show the impediment as much. Protection of your assets. Have you ever needed your asset protection? Well, we do that with the RDC team, including your home, thereby allowing you to leave a legacy for your family, avoiding the nightmare of debt brought by the government's estate recovery program called probate, where they can take between 10 to 40% of your assets. Now, I was talking to some good old boys, some attorneys. These are not your ordinary attorneys. These are AV-rated lawyers through Martindale Hubbard. And they said, Big C, would you believe that 7 out of 10 Americans, you can take this test yourself, 7 out of 10 Americans do not have a will and a trust. I said, oh, you must be out of your fucking mind. The great Spock from Star Trek. He said, no, seriously, Big C, ask people that you know. 7 out of 10 Americans do not have a will and a trust, but they do have cable TV. I said, oh, that makes no sense. I said, why would that be the case? He said, 7 out of 10 Americans, they're out of their fucking minds. And they don't think they need a will and a trust. But you bet your assets, if you don't have a will and a trust, probate's going to love you. because they take between 10 to 40% of your assets. You got to have a trust, and a will protects that. Now, there's a lot of people, they say, oh, I have an attorney, and he's a good friend of mine. In fact, we even go golfing together. I think that's good. But ask your friend if he does trust, if he's willing to trigger the long-term care entitlements. What's the long-term care entitlements, Big C? Ask your lawyer who's doing your trust if he knows how to trigger the long-term care entitlements. And then ask that attorney if they don't know how to trigger the long-term care entitlements. If you ever find your assets in a long-term care facility, ask that attorney to put in writing that he or she will pay your legal bills. Oh, Big C, they wouldn't do that. Yeah, ask them to put it in writing. If they know how to trigger your long-term care entitlements, that if they don't know how, that they're willing to pay your legal bills and your long-term care facility bills. Now, you know those facilities can cost between $4,000 to $10,000 a month. It's an entitlement. You get that with the RDC team, a one-time processing fee versus monthly insurance premiums for the rest of your life. But not only that, I'm not done yet. I said I'm not done yet. The reason you got to work with the RDC team for the asset protection is like a football play. When you hear Joe Montana back in the day, he go 49ers up to the line of scrimmage, 4 wideouts, 5-man front by the 49ers playing the Cowboys. The snap, Montana rolling to his right, rolling. He goes downfield. The ball is caught for the touchdown. Touchdown, Niners. Big C, 50 yards. Do you know why Joe Montana was able to throw that pass to Big C? Because they were protecting his assets, if that makes sense to you. Asset protection, you got to understand it. It's so important. What is protection? Insurance coverage required by a law, general liability, workers' compensation, lawyers specializing in living trust, Medicaid or Medi-Cal planning for long-term care, avoid probate, life insurance, veterans benefits, aid and attendance, pre-planning, and avoid the look-back period. What about fixed assets? Does your trust do that? I'm glad you asked, because a trust protects what attorneys come after if you don't have the proper protection. Those lawyers will come after your bank account, your checking account. You got to understand that. They'll come after your savings account, your money market account, your certificates of deposit, life insurance with cash values, your fixed index annuities. Now, keep in mind, when you're driving down the highways in Dimday Hills, oftentimes you see those signs on the side of the road, and the lawyers saying, if you've been involved in an accident, call 800-GET-THE-DOUGH law firm. What number, Big C? It's called 800-GET-THE-DOUGH law firm. Now, some of these attorneys, they will actually tell you. They say, if we don't win, you don't pay. What? They making so much money. They will say, oftentimes, if we don't win your case, then you don't pay. That tells you they making so much money on people who don't protect their assets that they can afford to take cases when they don't even win and don't even get paid. That's why you got to protect your assets. What about variable asset, Big C? Do you have that? I'm glad you asked, because the trust protects your real estate, your qualified money, your IRAs, your 401ks, and other investments. It's important to know that. Avoid capital gains. Let's say you buy a house for $100,000, and 9 months later, that house appreciates to $1 million. In 9 months? Yeah, just listen to the story. That's a $900,000 capital gains. That's like I won the lottery tonight because I bought the winning numbers. That's why I had a dream. It told me you got to have a trust. Over 3 decades of listen, attention business owners, over 3 decades of experience. You got to find out your other options to protect what your insurance does not cover. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. And when you reach out to them, you got to tell them Big C sent you, and you got to tell them Big C sent you. Now, do it now. Big C, I have a friend. He's been doing trust for 3 years. Why would we trust you and the RDC team? Well, I'm glad you asked. But does your friend have endorsements? Because we do. The RDC team has endorsements of the late James Gomez. Who's the late James Gomez, Big C? Well, he advised 4 California governors and led change in California nursing homes. He also was the CEO of the California Association of Health Facilities. But not only that, he served on Golden One's board of directors over 21 years. But not only that, we have the late Robert Carlson. He was the top legal counsel for CalPERS. He endorsed the RDC team. But not only that, we have Attorney Scott Thibodeau, one of the top estate planners in Northern California. But not only that, we have Mr. George Jones, Esquire. He's the chair of the California Black Chamber of Commerce, also the California Black Chamber of Commerce Foundation. But not only that, we have Mr. Leon Woods, works with many of the top lobbyists in California. But not only that, we have Miss Cheryl Brown. Now, she's the chair of the California Commission on Aging. She endorses the RDC team. I had someone talk to me today about what they're doing in their business called honey. They do honey business, and they're also trying to do other business where they have grants. And she brought up the name Miss Cheryl Brown. I said, wow, what an epiphany, because she endorses the RDC team, my company that I work with. And so I gave her the flyer. She said, well, let me reach out to you, and can you help us protect our assets? And I said, you definitely bet your assets we can help you protect your assets. And that's a fact. We also have Mr. Ray De La Cruz. He's the CEO of Resource Development Consulting, Inc. Been doing this thing over 34 years. Also, we have Mr. Alex De La Cruz. He's the founder of American Veteran Benefits. He endorses the RDC team. But not only that, we have Charlton Curry, the co-chair of the National Black Wall Street Project. I endorse the RDC team. But not only that, business development consultant with the RDC team. But not only that, owner of Big C Sports Podcast Corporation, the #1 sports show, Tucker Sports, and asset protection in the universe. Nobody does it like Big C, if that makes sense to you. I got a song I'm going to sing to you. It says, maybe I'll finish up. I love it. But not only that, we have Double O. She's the payout committee for the National Black Wall Street Project. She endorses the RDC team, but not only that, business development consultant with the RDC team, but not only that, has her own economics awareness talk show called Let's Eat. You can Google it on accesssacramento.org or KUBU 96.5 FM, or go to her website, eatprivate.net, and give that some praise. I say give it praise, praise, praise. You can all give that some praise. And there's a song out there, it's called I'm Gonna Try to Plagiarize. I hope you don't get upset when I plagiarize. It's called Big C, Big C. I'm gonna kiss you when you gonna kiss on me. Big C, Big C. You're so Big C. What the hell is that song? Maybe we'll be in the road singing sometime soon. I'm trying to let you know I can even fix an alternator. If that makes sense to you. Now, I gotta tell you what I love doing with the Big C team and the RDC team is making sure that people have their asset protection. I got to make sure you have your asset protection, and I love bringing that to you with the RDC team. But I got to tell you also, there's something I want to bring up before I get into the sports. It's very powerful because whether you're ready for it or not, AI is coming. Allen Iverson? No, not Allen Iverson. AI is called artificial intelligence. OpenAI completes a deal that values a company at $157 billion. That's a lot of money. The AI startup evaluation has risen by more than 100. Think about that. $157 billion. There's one company that's risen by $70 billion in 9 months. In 9 months, that's the time it takes to make a baby. 9 months. You got to realize Sam Altman is the CEO of OpenA1. He spoke in May at a Microsoft event in Seattle, and the tech giant is the startup's biggest investor. And I'm asking them to invest and sponsor Big C Sports Podcast. So OpenAI, on October the 2nd, it said that it had completed a $6.6 billion fundraising deal that nearly doubles the high-profile company's valuation from just 9 months ago. That's powerful. The new fundraising round, led by the investment of Drive Capital, values OpenAI at $157 billion. According to two people with knowledge of the deal, Microsoft and the chip maker Nvidia, the tech conglomerate SoftBank, and the United Arab Emirates investment firm MGX, and others are also putting money into OpenAI. And soon, Big C Sports Podcast. You gotta give that some praise. I say give it praise, praise, praise. That's my story, and I'm taking with it. The company is stated the AI boom in 2022 with the release of its online chatbot ChatGPT, sparking a race to invest in startups. And that developer, you got to realize what I just said to you, because sometimes it goes in one ear and out the other if you're a man. If you're a woman, then it probably doesn't go in one ear and out the other. You guys don't forget nothing. You bring up stuff from 3 months ago. Say, didn't you say Didn't you say you were going to fix something? I'm trying to fix it. I fix stuff when I get things done and I know things, whatever that means. I'm going to fix it. I promise I'm going to fix it. But the company started the AI boom in 2022 with the release of its online chatbot called ChatGPT, sparking a race to invest in startups that develop similar technology, and its latest investment round indicates that the tech industry's excitement over artificial intelligence remains strong despite concerns about the effectiveness and the safety of the technology. Keep that in mind. That should be some relief to other AI startups, while the tech industry's biggest companies have been pouring billions of dollars into AI and all the projects. Investments in startups working on the technology, it cooled down a little bit this year, but it's time to bring AI to sponsor Big C Sports Podcast. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. I gotta finish this off. One reason for the slowdown was concern that small companies could not compete with the likes of Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and a number of startups that were essentially swallowed up by tech giants. Now you can Google Big C Sports Podcast on Google Podcasts. You can also Google Big C Sports Podcast on Amazon Podcasts. So Big C is already part of the artificial intelligence. I just need the $1 billion. I thought it was $100 billion, Big C. Okay, I need $100 billion. I need $100 billion, but I'm already part of the AI. But the OpenAI profile has given it a major head start by its revenues are rising quickly. The startup exceeds about $3.7 billion in sales this year. According to financial documents reviewed by the New York Times, the company now has about 1,700 employees after adding more than 1,000 in the last 9 months. You got to give that some praise. I say give it praise, praise, praise. That's better than a touchdown. Home run, 3-point play. Old man Willie, he's going all the way. Now the reason I'm asking this company, OpenAI, to sponsor Big C Sports, OpenAI is losing billions of dollars. However, because of the unusually high cost of building and running AI technologies like ChatGPT, it expects to lose roughly $5 billion after paying the cost related to running its services and other expenses, according to an analysis of the documents by a financial professional. Thrive Capital has invested about $1.3 billion in OpenAI, with $750 million coming from its own fund and $550 million coming from other investors through an instrument called Social Purpose Vehicle. According to a person familiar with the deal, Thrive also has the option to invest up to $1 billion more in OpenAI at the same $157 billion valuation through 2025. The person said other investors do not have that option. That's why you got to sponsor Big C Sports Podcast. You got to do it now. You got to do it now. That's my story. Before it goes away, you don't want it to go away. Again, I told you I'm launching Big C Sports Podcast TV, coming to a TV screen near you soon. I really do appreciate it. When you think about some of the regional broadcasters out there, there's a lot of them. I want to be one of those growing trends. I started Big C Sports Podcast really when I was in college. I ran the media department at my university. And now I'm realizing why I can do so much now is because I was doing it then. I want to tell you where I'm starting out. The National Basketball Association, the broadcasters for each individual team entering the 2024 and 2025 NBA season. When you think about some markets like Boston, the defending NBA champions, they have Drew Carter and Brian Scalabrine, Eddie House. You got to realize they have part of the NBC Sports in Boston. That's their flagship station. And they do a great job. Iron Eagle is the primary broadcaster when it comes to that. And then they have Noah Eagle. In Brooklyn, you have so many great players that have gotten into broadcast now. When I think about the Brooklyn Nets, Vince Carter is part of the games that does the broadcast for the Brooklyn Nets on the Yes Network, WWOR-TV. A lot of good old boys that get out of sports, they get into the world of broadcast. New York, you have Mike Breen. Bang, bang, bang! What a great broadcaster. Kenny Albert and ESPN and ABC assignments. Gus Johnson was one of the best in the business. Really do love appreciating what he's able to do. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. And next coming up, I want you to hear Big C Sports. Got my own thoughts, my own network that's being launched. I just need that sponsorship to kick in from OpenAI. All's fair in love and war. Well, that's my story. I'm sticking with it. There's a lot of great players that are doing the best they can to make basketball more exciting. I want to bring up another color commentator by the name of Cedric Maxwell with Boston, and also Abby Chin when Cedric Maxwell is off. And then Sean Grandy. There's a lot of guys that do play-by-play. Sean's one of them in the Boston market. I got to also bring in, as I mentioned, in Brooklyn, Chris Carino, Bob Husler, and also that's part of the Yes Network, Tim Capstraw, as part of the WFAN AM and FM. I got to also bring in New York, Tyler Murray, and Kenny Albert during Murray's absence, Don LaCurca, and also Pat O'Keefe, Monica McNutt, Alan Hahn, and Wally Serbiak. So many great opportunities for people, and I want to open up that door for more men of color, African Americans, to get their start in doing their thing when it comes to play-by-play in NBA basketball. It's all about getting the opportunity in the Chicago market, play-by-play. Adam Amin, he's doing his thing. Mike Monaco, also color commentator, Stacey King. It's just about getting the opportunity. If you get the opportunity, then you can make things happen. I also want to bring you to Indiana, Chris Denari, play-by-play, Quinn Buckner, and then Eddie Gill for the home games. You got to realize all of these players, all of these broadcasters, they start somewhere. They got to get a chance. In Detroit, you have Mark Champion with Valley Sports Detroit, Joyce Blah, and the color analyst, Rick Mahorn, did his thing with the Bad Boys back in the day. There are a lot of good players that are looking for opportunities. I want to grow a Big C Sports also podcast. For play-by-play down in Atlanta, you have Rob Radburn, Mike Morgan, analyst Dominic Wilkins, Vince Carter, Tabitha Turner. There's a lot of good players and girls, men and women that are doing this business. More and more. We just got to keep pushing the envelope. I want to get more people of color also to have the opportunity for the play-by-play. Well, that's my story. I'm sticking with it. I would not be denied. All I'm asking for is God's favor. God's favor to do what I want to do. I remember even some guys that I work with, the Golden State Warriors. You have Bob Fitzgerald that does the play-by-play for the Golden State Warriors. The LA Clippers, they have Brian Seaman. There's the same thing. I want to tell you, when you get the opportunity, you got to jump at it, and you got to jump really high. In the Sacramento Kings, I'm going to tell you, there's a guy that I worked with back in the day in television, Bill McDonald. I remember doing some spot work with Bill McDonald back in the day. He was doing college basketball back then. Very good man. Hopefully I'll meet up with him again soon. The Spectrum Sports Network, All's Fair in Love and War, really do appreciate him. You have Mark Jones for the Sacramento Kings, and Kyle Draper for the Sacramento Kings. Katie Christensen also doing her thing with the Sacramento Kings on NBC Sports California. I want to bring Big C Sports Podcast, that next frontier of my own 30-minute sports show, NBA wrap-up, also NFL wrap-up. Really do appreciate that. The opportunity is there. You got to walk through it, and I want to walk through it really fast. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. As I always say, stand up for the kickoff. You got to stand up for the kickoff. That's Big C Sports TV, and paying homage to a lot of the good old boys and good old gals that are doing their things. I got to bring you also some news for NFL football. I think sometimes a Jet needs a scapegoat. The New York Jets, they fired Robert Saleh after a 2-3 start, and they tapped Jeff Ulbrich as the interim. It doesn't make sense to me. The team has a 2-3 start. The Jets owner, Woody Johnson, made a stunning and unprecedented move Tuesday morning by firing coach Robert Saleh and naming defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich as the interim head coach. Now, Johnson, with his first in-season coaching change in 25 years of ownership, said he consulted with general manager Joe Douglas, but he called it my decision and mine alone. That's stupid. Why would you fire a coach 5 games into the season? That's like the pilot of a jet engine, a jet aerial plane, deciding I don't want to fly this plane anymore, I'm going to parachute off. Why would you do that to your team? Saleh's not the one that's been throwing interceptions in the football games. He's not the one that showed up to mini camps late because he was off doing his thing. He's not the one. That was Aaron Rodgers. You know where the firing came from. He said it's his decision and his alone. I think he's not being honest. The vice chairman broke the news to Saleh in his office at the team facility. That makes no sense. Saleh was shocked. Sources said he was escorted to his car by the director of security. As source confirmed, said that's protocol. is probably the best team he's had in 25 years, Johnson said on a conference call with reporters. He just felt that the best way to go forward was with a new direction. And taking Jeff Ulbrich and making him the interim head coach, he said he thought it would get the most out of the team and give them the best chance to win. I disagree. The Jets had one of the top defenses in the NFL. One of the top. They had one of the top defenses. It wasn't their defense that was costing them games. Saleh, who promised multiple championships when he was hired in 2021, the Jets haven't won a championship since Broadway Joe Namath. He finished with a 20-win and 36 record with no playoff appearances, yet the Jets have a 13-year playoff drought, and that's not Saleh's fault. Look at the owner who's been in charge for 25 years. The longest active drought in the NFL, but they began the season with Super Bowl expectations, in large part because of touchdown Aaron Rodgers. Yet the Jets' 4-week loss to the Broncos shook the organization the next day, and Johnson and the team president, they decided to express their concern to Rob Saleh. In a meeting, according to multiple sources, in his sense, Saleh was a coaching for his life. Sunday in London, where the Jets dropped their second straight game to 23-17, a loss to the undefeated Vikings. How do you get fired after you lose by less than a touchdown to the undefeated Minnesota Vikings across the pond? It doesn't make any sense. He said it's not just the last two games that cost his decision, but it's a longer time frame. Johnson said he's had a couple of years to think about it, and he just thinks they can do better. They can do better? You don't do better by firing Rob Saleh, who had one of the better defenses in the NFL. And look at the Jets' coaching regimen over the last couple of years. Rob Saleh, 20 wins, 36 losses. Todd Bowles, 24 wins, 40 losses. And Bruce Coslet, 26 wins and 38 losses. You got to realize Saleh had this team heading in the right direction. Defensively, it was their offense that had to work things out. I don't know why, but when you have that kind of money, sometimes they do what they want to do. But to get rid of a coach 5 games into the season after you just lost to an undefeated team, and at home in the rain you had a kicker miss a field goal, that's not Saleh's fault. You had a good thing going, and you let it get away. Now you got to find somebody else. You decided to swipe left? All you had to do is take the course. If defense wins championships, you had a good one in New York, but now they want to go back to doing what they've been doing the last 25 years. All fan level war. Last night, the defending NFL champion Kansas City Chiefs, who did not change coaches after week 5. The Chiefs 26, New Orleans Saints 13. You got to realize the Kansas City Chiefs, they continue to win games. Not decisively, but Kansas City selected Xavier Worthy in the first round. Fantasy football diehards rejoice. Finally, the Chiefs with both an explosive offense again, and that hasn't come to fruition through 5 weeks. But the numbers that matter are the wins. I want winners. I want people who want to win. You got to have people who want to win. And when you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, they moved to 5-0 by racking up 460 yards of offense, yet really looking pretty doing so. Touchdown Patrick Mahomes once again. He was doing that Superman thing that Superman does. And Andy Reid's offense looked really good, extending plays and connecting with a great core of receivers that catch everything he throws at them. Travis Kelce got his groove back. The Chiefs did run into some issues in the red zone. They failed to produce a touchdown on 4 straight trips to the red zone on Monday night and missed a field goal, allowing the Saints to stay in the game. They should have chalked up the loss. Well, it was decided that the good old boys in Kansas City, one of the reasons they're so good is they're consistent in keeping good coaches. Andy Reid's, you can count on him. Saleh, the Jets didn't give him a chance. They just didn't give him a chance. They brought in a quarterback and touchdown Aaron Rodgers, and for some reason, he got his coach fired. I think Rodgers is the reason. The guy that didn't show up in the OTAs is not having his best season, and now the coach gets fired? That's like rewarding bad behavior. I don't think it makes sense, but that's my story, and I'm taking with it. The high-powered Saints, who that say they're going to beat them Saints, they've disappeared. They were great the first 2 weeks, and then they've dropped off. After dropping 91 points in their first 2 games, the Saints have produced just 49 points over the last 3, which have each ended in defeat, and that was more disappointing than the late-game meltdown in Week 3 against Philadelphia. But I got to tell you, Derek Carr has a hitch in his giddy-up. He may be out a couple of weeks. That's what they're saying. I got to find out more about that. it's a shame because the Saints have a good team. But when you have a quarterback like touchdown Derek Carr, if he's not able to go full bore, that's going to hurt their offensive production with the Saints. Who that said they're going to beat them Saints? A lot of guys lately. Well, that's my story. I'm taking with it. I wish touchdown Derek Carr nothing but the best out of Fresno State and played for the Raiders and now doing his thing down in New Orleans. Well, that's my story. I'm taking with it. Are you ready for some college football? Yeah! I love college football. And I think about college football, some big games this weekend. You have Penn State at USC. USC is not getting the benefit of the doubt with the good old boys down in the Big Ten Conference. They just haven't played well enough to win when you're playing against the officiating too. Yeah, I said it. They know it's true. But I'm going to just get to you the Oregon-Ohio State game. What a big matchup also on the West Coast. And then Texas and Oklahoma. I have a special guest coming on Thursday to talk about the Red River rivalry down in Dallas, Texas for Texas and Oklahoma. But I got to look at Big C's college football power rankings. When you think about the Power 25 and teams that lost to unranked programs along with number 9 Missouri losing by a large margin to Texas A&M, and Big C predicted that. One of the most chaotic October surprises. October surprise was really big over the weekend. Vanderbilt, one of the biggest upsets in the SEC history. They knocked off the Alabama Crimson Tide. They knocked them off. I told you, Elephant, to lose that game after they knocked off Georgia, I think they were just too hyped. And they're college kids, and sometimes it's hard to get up after you had such a momentous win the way they had it over Georgia. But Alabama, they lost in Nashville. At the same time, I don't think they lost their season, and they can get to the college playoffs even if they have maybe 2 losses. So they have 1 more to go, and I still think they're good. But following the surprising loss, there are more questions surrounding Kalen DeBoer's program and what can you do in a conference play next week. We'll find out. Alabama will bounce back. Boise State, they remain in the top 25 after a blowout win over Utah State that made it to number 1 scoring offense among the FBS programs. And the Broncos, Austin Genty, showcased yet again why he remains a Heisman Trophy conversation as he surpassed 1,000 rushing yards in just 5 games, got his chest in the win. After many surprising upsets this past weekend, 5 new programs joined the top 25 list, and Army takes the number 25 spot after his best start in 28 years, alongside SMU, Pitt, Texas A&M, and Illinois. I got to bring you my thoughts on Big C's college football power rankings. Everybody has their own thoughts. I'm going to give you mine, and it may not be what you expect because I believe that everybody has their own opinion, and Big C's opinion is just as good as anyone else's opinion. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. I got number 10 in Big C's NBA power rankings. Oh, Miss, can you please class reparations? I got the Ole Miss Rebels, the great Lane Kiffin responded to last week's gut-wrenching loss to Kentucky. They put the 14-0 lead on South Carolina within 10 minutes and ripped off 5 games of 20-plus yards. As the Gamecocks wanted to coach it through the entire second half, they won a 27-3 win. All Fran level work. Jackson Dart was 14-27, 285 yards, and the Rebels defense recorded 10 tackles for loss with 6 sacks. All's fair in level where I really like that Ole Miss football team. I got to tell you, number 9 in Big C's college football power rankings. I got to tell you the number 9, the Tennessee Volunteers, for the most of the second half Saturday night in Fayetteville. Tennessee just needed 1 more big play. They needed big-time players to make big-time plays, but it didn't quite happen enough, and they fell to the mighty Razorbacks. Even with the misfiring offense, it took a 14-3 lead midway through the third quarter, and the Volunteers defense was rolling. But the Volunteers, they punted on 4 straight drives, and eventually the Arkansas Razorbacks, they got right back into the end zone. Malachi Singleton, after an injury to Taylor Green, started to make some plays. I got to tell you, Arkansas is a good team. They played A&M close down in Texas, and they knocked out Tennessee. All's fair and level war, but I still put Tennessee at number 9 in Big C's college football power rankings. I got number 8 in Big C's college football power rankings, the Clemson Tigers. The Tigers did not score 40 or more points against Florida State. They did rack up 500 yards of offense for the 3rd straight time this season. A 29-13 win over the Seminoles. Coach Dabo Swinney was quick to praise freshman kicker Noah Hauser for making 5 field goals. But the flip side of that is that Clemson struggled in the red zone. But they still got the win. If you get the win, that's more than struggle. And not struggling in the red zone. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. I got number 7 in Big C's college football power rankings. How about those Tide? The Alabama and Clemson Tide. I know they lost to Vanderbilt, but Vanderbilt's not a better team. That was called a college hangover. If you ever been to college, you probably had a hangover at some point in time. Or they had a hangover. The number 1 team in the country was not ready to get it done. Vanderbilt, they shocked the universe. Alabama suffered one of the biggest upsets in SEC history, a wild 40-35 defeat that ended in a goalpost being pulled down and carried away on Broadway. It was a stunning failure for Kalen DeBoer and the team out of Alabama. But again, they're just kids. They're just kids. Alabama will be back on their feet in no time, as an elephant always gets back on his feet. I got number 6 in Big C's college football power rankings. I got the Miami Hurricanes. They erased a 25-point second-half deficit to beat the Cal Berkeley Golden Bears 39-38 as quarterback Cam Ward, who's a Heisman Trophy hopeful. He was spectacular down the stretch. It would be hard to look at their 6-0 record without thinking about how great he's been. And maybe the officiating's played a role in the past 2 weeks with controversial late-game decisions working in their favor. The ACC needs Miami to run the table because that conference, outside of Clemson, Florida State had a great season last year, but they got beat down in the bowl game by Georgia. You got to look at Miami. If the U is back, they will run the table this year. I'm not so sure they will, but they sure look good right now. The Hail Mary decision against Virginia Tech, it doesn't get flipped, and Miami's call for targeting. The exact team almost certainly would be 4-2, but it did not happen. They found a way to win. You got to find a way to win. Miami's winning game. They were down to Cal, and right inside the last minute of the game, they drove downfield and scored the winning touchdown in front of a packed house at Strawberry Canyon at Tightwad Hill, or is it Tightwad Hill in Strawberry Canyon? Either way, what a game that was at Cal Berkeley. I remember doing games at Cal Berkeley back in the day when that guy started at Strawberry Canyon in Memorial Stadium in Berkeley, one of the most beautiful sights. If you ever get up in the press box, you can see over the San Francisco Bay Area, the Golden Gate Bridge and the Oakland Bay Bridge. What a great game. Cal has a good team this year, but Miami found a way to get on track. I got number 5 in Big C's college football power rankings. I got the Georgia Bulldogs. When you think about the Bulldogs, a 31-13 win over Auburn. Carson Beck, 240 yards, 2 touchdowns, and the ground game was great. 88 yards and 2 touchdowns for Trevor Etienne. It was a perfect mundane affair against a solid defense after a loss to Alabama and the shaky, slow start against Kentucky in week 3. It still seems that something is missing in Georgia. Maybe just maybe they're going to bring Herschel Walker back. Rumor has it he's been doing a lot of push-ups lately. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. Now, I got a team. I got number 4, but they're going to get knocked off this week in Southern California. The Penn State Nittany Lions. After a sluggish start, the Nittany Lions got a boost offensively from receiver Liam Clifford, the younger brother of former Penn State quarterback Sean Clifford. And all 3 of Liam Clifford's catches led to third down conversions and the first 100-yard game of his career on scoring drives as Penn State beat UCLA 27-12. They're not going to beat 2 LA teams in the same week. After 4 straight games at Beaver Stadium, the Nittany Lions hit the road for a big-time game in Southern California against the USC Trojans. I think USC bounces back and gets this win. Now, USC, they're not out of the college football playoffs, but they cannot afford another loss. 2 close losses on the road at Michigan and also Minnesota. Now, the times change. The body clock doesn't travel as well as the team, making no excuses for Lincoln Riley and the USC Trojans. But they're a good team, but they got to win out if they're going to be selected in the college football playoffs. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. I don't think you're going to take a 3-loss team unless you happen to win the Big Ten Conference. That's my story. I got number 3 in Big C's college football rankings. I got quack. I got the Oregon Ducks. They're a good team, but Oregon struggled a little bit. Dylan Gabriel, 2 interceptions thrown before any touchdowns could have been a recipe for disaster for the Ducks as they hosted an unranked Michigan State squad on Friday night. But Gabriel and the Oregon offense showed once again why it's so great offensively. Without those 2 touchdowns, it would have been a bigger blowout. than the 31-10 blowout that they had against Michigan State. They could have put 40 on the board easily, but that's my story. Now, Gabriel bounced back and threw 2 touchdowns. With the Ducks defense, they held the Spartans to 10 points on the night in a 31-10 win, but they got to get better. Oregon is 90th in the country in red zone conversion rate. They got to fix that or they're going to fall to Ohio State. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it because Ohio State's a much better team than Michigan State. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I got number 2 in Big C's college football power rankings. I got the Ohio State Buckeyes, Jeremiah Smith. You'd be nuts not to pick Ohio State to be number 2 in the country. And the Buckeye is a nut. Jeremiah Smith continued to deliver on a sensational freshman season. He reeled in yet another touchdown and a one-handed snag marked by a Smith electric scoring grab. The Buckeyes scored 28 unanswered points in the second half to put Iowa away 35-7. And Iowa just cannot score points. They don't even want to score points. But at the same time, Ohio State, they can score points. They're going to play in front of a large crowd at Austin Stadium of 60,000, which is almost half the stadium size of Ohio State that holds 104,000. But the crowd is just as loud. Austin Stadium in Oregon, you got to get up there early and see that place. They'll be in all yellow and green. And I'm not saying they're going to upset Ohio State, but I think that game goes down to the wire. If you have turnovers against Ohio State the way you had against Michigan State, you'll lose. But this is a game for Oregon to show what they did when they went back to Columbus a few years ago. They were able to beat the Ohio State Buckeyes. But if you have 2 turnovers in this game, you're not going to beat them. You can afford maybe 1 turnover, but you got to score in the red zone, and Oregon can knock off Ohio State. I'm going to talk about that coming up on Friday. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. And number 1 in Big C's college football power rankings, I have the Texas Longhorns. How about those Texans? I got a good old boy, Timmy. He's going to be talking to me before the Texas and OU Red River rivalry game on Saturday down in Dallas at the Cotton Bowl. But I feel in these rival games, Oklahoma, can they knock off Texas? They could, but I doubt it. The Longhorns on a bye week, they sat back and watched college football burn this weekend as Alabama, the team that bypassed them for the top ranking last week, lost to Vanderbilt. You can also be sure that head coach Steve Sarkisian will use that as a reminder this week that not the Texas needs any reminder of motivation when they play against Oklahoma. The Sooners headed to Dallas to face Oklahoma in the first SEC version of one of the biggest rivalry games in college football, arguably the best setting in the middle of the State Fair of Texas. And the Longhorns, they should have Quinn Ewers back after a week of rest. This game is so big. When you look at Texas and Oklahoma, it's big on big. But Oklahoma and their success against Texas in the big games, that has to scare you if you're Texas a little bit. But Texas is a lot faster this year than Oklahoma. They don't seem to slow down. They've had a week rest, and now they get to come back on a big game in Texas where Oklahoma and Texas, they recruit the players all over the state of Texas. But Oklahoma has some shenanigans in some of their crowd, and that some of that latent racism, they got to stop that because it's happening down with the Oklahoma Sooners, and I was being told by a reliable source, enough of that stuff with the racism and all that crap that goes on in this country. Sports can bring people together, and we got to fix it. You got to fix it. But I think the Gooder boys in Texas are going to have more than Oklahoma can handle. We will see. But that's why they play to win the game. You play to win the game. I got to look at that game coming up. I'm going to preview it coming up also on Friday in Big C's college football previews. But that's my story. I'm sticking with it. Well, I know everybody has their own hopes and dreams. When you think about what you're going to do with sports, everybody has this belief that something about baseball and basketball and football can really bring this country together. If you can Google the word Issachar anointing, Issachar, the Issachar anointing, it's that special anointing from the Holy Spirit given that certain people of God to understand the times and the seasons we're living in, and subsequently know what God wants us to do. It's intuitive sense coupled with the voice of God leading people to do the right things, and often in trying times. The tribe of Issachar is very interesting. They were especially used of God and discerning when you realize they understood the context of what God wanted them to do. I'm asking God to guide my life even more and more as more and more good things are happening in the life of Big C Sports Podcast. I want to bring as many people as possible to come together and do the right thing. You know I'm big on reparations. I want you to hear the greatest speaker in the history of the universe to ever talk about reparations and what our presidential candidates to talk about when it comes to reparations. Listen with your own eyes and ears. The great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
And Martin Luther King spoke to this. Jim and Shane, this is clip number 4. Martin Luther King spoke to this sometime back in the early 60s. And I thought this was a really interesting quote. Here he is.
The problem. At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with. And this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
From his speech, The Two Nations of Black America. And it's absolutely brilliant. And the next time some white person talks about, well, I pulled myself up by my bootstraps and my family did too, especially the Bundy boys. I mean, here's Martin Luther King, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. talking about how basically whites stole the West from the Indians with the complete, and didn't just steal it. I mean, murdered them he murdered the Indians in the process, and did not give any of these benefits to African Americans for 100 years in this country. It's a strong case for reparations or some variation on it, for rebuilding our cities, for doing right after having done wrong for so many centuries. It is a very, very strong case for that.
Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. You got to know that reparations are necessary. The Just Act for the descendants of child slavery, we deserve it. It's the right thing to do. I love bringing it to you with Big C Sports Podcast. I'm asking the clergy, I'm asking the NFL, the NBA, and Major League Baseball to be a part of reparations. We got some hockey starting out tonight, but nothing like the game down in Southern California with the San Diego Padres taking on the Los Angeles Dodgers. From sea to shining sea, I know people want to see some good baseball. And if you can't be a part of baseball, at least you can be a part of listening to what happens with baseball. I know the playoffs are here. Nothing's greater than football. Basketball's tipping off, coming right around the corner. But baseball, right now with the bunting and the Major League Baseball stadiums, it's a great time of year if you love that sport called baseball. I look at Big C Sports with AI, looking for more sponsorship from AI, looking for $100 million from AI and the sponsorship for Big C Sports Podcast. The Issachar moment and Issachar anointing for Big C Sports Podcast. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Well, as I always tell you on every Big C Sports Podcast, if you're going to drink, don't drive. If you're going to drive, don't drink. Because mothers against drunk drivers are mad, and fathers against drunk drivers are mad. It's one of the easier things not to do. You can call Uber, you can call Lyft, you can walk it off, you can sleep it off, but don't let someone you love start drinking and get behind the wheel of the car and start driving. The life you saved, maybe your own. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. What my beautiful mother always says, there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. No man, woman, or child should ever put up with that crap. If you're going to do it, you need more LEADER in your life. Now, LEADER is an acronym for love is the answer. If someone loves you, they don't hit you. I only hit you because you made me mad. Pick up the phone, call 911. If someone slapped you, I only slapped you because you made me mad. Pick up the phone and call 911. If somebody's choking you out, I only choked you out because you made me mad. pick up the phone and call 911. No man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that crap on their own. If someone loves you, they don't hit you, they don't beat you, they don't slap you. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Well, I always love paying homage to my beautiful family legacy on my mother's side. My great-grandparents called them Mama and Pop. They were beautiful, loving, kind people, always making sure lots of love in the family and lots of food in the belly. In fact, you know how kids are. Those boys that go outside and play all day, play all night, and come into the house without taking a shower, without washing our hands, say, Great Grandma, I'm hungry. I want some collard greens and some ribs. She said, okay, baby, go wash your hands. You can get some collard greens and some ribs. Great Grandma, I'm too hungry to wash my hands. She said, baby, just wash your hands and get some collard greens and some ribs. I'm too hungry to wash them. I said, I'm hungry now. She said, you wash your hands in this house. We said, okay. We wash our hands, and she let us have some collard greens and some ribs. Love my grandmother, great-grandmother with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My great-grandfather Pop, from a military man and from a Negro League baseball player, known around his church buddies as making the best moonshine in the history of the universe. And always saying you can do anything you want, put your mind to it, and he can fix an alternator. He can even fix an alternator, and maybe that's what my great-grandmama fell in love with him. I love them with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful grandparents, Madia and Hezekiah, they were seers. They could oftentimes look at a person and tell you a lot about their past, their present, and their future. They still help me to this day. I love them with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And then I can always depend on my mama, the most beautiful mama in the history of the universe. Started a Head Start program, a food program, and also coaching all boys Little League baseball team to the championship of the universe. Always saying, rise and shine, the best person I ever met in my life. Dear mama, you know my praise. Do it now. You know I deserve it, mama. I deserve all my praise, all my chanting. You know what I'm talking about. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. The best person I ever met in my life. And then on my father's side, my grandparents, Albert and Alberta Curry, they were pastors. They had 3 churches. They also owned 2 gas stations in Oakland. They had 40 acres of land as well. I remember one time I was 8 years old, walking through the hallway about 10 o'clock at night. I felt a hand touch me on my forehead. She said, what are you doing, young man, going to get some more cookies? I said, what are you doing, Grandma? It's 10 o'clock at night. You normally go to bed at 8:30. She said, what are you doing, young man, going to get some cookies? I said, cookies and baby crap, what I'm doing, Grandma. I'm going to get my reparations. But a couple of cookies wouldn't hurt. It's been a long wait. She said, there's something about your voice. I love hearing you speak. And now Big C Sports Podcast, becoming a household name on 29 podcast platforms and streaming on 4 TV platforms. I love my grandparents with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. All my heart, mind, body, and soul. And then I tell you, my beautiful grandfather could fix anything. Always said, use your mind, use your mind, use your mind. And he said, measure twice and hammer once. When we helped him with the fence. I said, boys, didn't I tell you measure twice and hammer once? Sometimes you got to tell boys something 4 or 5 times. Love them with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And then my beautiful father, former United States Air Force fighter pilot, chief mechanic, always making sure that planes can fly high so we can all stay safe at night. In fact, my dad always said, develop your mind to its highest extent. And my dad, one time, he told me, he's the first one to tell me about the SR-71 Blackbird. He said that plane could fly from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C. in 1 hour and 8 minutes. And now they have it retired at Air Force museums. Love my dad with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And then my beautiful brother Todd, with that bombastic voice, sound like thunder and lightning when Todd would speak. A voracious reader, always talking sports and politics. In fact, and Todd always said, go forward, don't look back because you don't have much backside back there. I said, I love my backside, Todd. And I swear to God, someone touched me on my backside today. I turned around, and there was no one there. I said, Todd, leave my backside alone. But I've been doing my squats, so my backside's getting bigger. And I love Todd with all my body and soul. You know, we love Malcolm X, but we also love the movie Pulp Fiction. And I love that scene where Ben Rames, Sam Jackson, Bruce Willis, and John Travolta. Vince Rames told Bruce Willis before the big fight, he said, sit your butt down, boy. Now listen, take this money. Your butt goes down in the 5th round. Say that, flip. He said, okay, my butt goes down in the 5th round. And he told him, he said, that stinging sensation you're feeling, well, that's just pride. Flipping with you. And he said what a lot of athletes say to each other. He said, flip pride. That pride only hurts. It never helps. It says boxing is filled with a lot of unrealistic muddly bluckers who think their butt gets better with time, like fine wine, but it don't. In terms of vinegar, then it do. Now one day you're going to thank Uncle Marsalis when you're chilling in the Caribbean. Take this money and have a great life. But we know he didn't take the dive, and he lost his LA privileges. He left top with all my heart, my body, and soul. And then my beautiful daughter, Daisy, the most beautiful daughter in the history of the universe. College graduate, 2 degrees with honors in 3.5 years from a major university. Daisy, you can be anything you want. Daisy helped me set up the very first interview for Big C Sports Podcast back at Salem Media. It became the first time in the history of the United States of America that NFL Monday Night Football started broadcasting live on the Wall Street Business Network. They would normally go to ESPN, but because of 2 black men of the crew, they came to Salem Media. We made them number 1 in the market. They called us the Dream Team, and then shenanigans set in. But that's what happens sometimes when you deal with shenanigans. Daisy, you're amazing. Always trust God, Isaiah 50:17. I pray that no weapon formed against you will prosper. Daisy scored 6 goals in a soccer game. She's left-footed. It was Daisy with the ball, Daisy with the kick, Daisy with the goal, the goal, the goal, the goal, the goal, the goal. As a right-footed kicker, she did it left-footed. She's ambidextrous, and the team won the game. Daisy, you can win anything you want to do. Always put God first. Always trust God with all your heart, mind, body, and soul. I love you with all I have. And then my beautiful, handsome son, Malcolm, the most handsome son in the history of the universe. College graduate, very smart, every night a good man. Malcolm, always trust God, Isaiah 50:17. You can be anything you want to be. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. Malcolm, help me save trees. I used to always get the newspaper to look up stats for Big C Sports Podcast on players and teams. And one day Malcolm said, Dad, why don't you just Google it? And a light bulb went off. I've been Googling ever since. Now on 29 podcast platforms and streaming on 4 TV platforms. One day, Malcolm said, Dad, you want to see Big C Sports on TV? I said, sure. He said, pick up the remote, aim it at the TV, and say, play Big C Sports. You'll see your show come up. That's before it was even on the air. And now it's streaming short after that on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Malcolm, you can be anything you want. Always trust God. Isaiah 50:17. I pray that no weapon formed against you will prosper. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And then Big C, with all that wisdom and knowledge over the years, like my great-grandparents coming out of that barn with their church buddies, always saying, you got to believe, you got to believe, you got to believe. Say, let's get ready to rumble. I love saying, welcome to the show. It's been nominated Big C Sports Podcast. I have no scripts. I have no 3-minute teleprompters. I have no producer in my ear. All I have is this gland in the brain called the pineal gland. The ancients call it the third eye. They say that's how you talk to God. And that's why I scream so loud, because I want God to hear it. God, you know my praise. You hear my chant. You know my praise. I deserve it, God. I deserve it now. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. You know what I mean. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Well, I always pay homage to the great Muhammad Ali and Drew Boudini Brown. Back in the day, there's a man known by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He's known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, you float like a butterfly, and you sting like a bee. Rumble, young man, rumble. He said, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Ali said, I'm so pretty, I can't possibly be beat. And every time I listen to Big C Sports, I want to champion reparations now. Reparations forever. And then I float like a butterfly, and I sting like a bee. There was no fighter greater than Muhammad Ali. And now I pay homage to what every president should do. Honor President Abraham Lincoln and Dr. King. What they say? They say reparations at last. Reparations at last. Thank God Almighty. Reparations at last. Say it 2 more times. Reparations at last. Reparations at last. Thank God Almighty. Reparations at last. Reparations at last. Reparations at last. Thank God Almighty. Reparations at last. I thank you. I appreciate you. And I hope that you have a super, fantastic day.
Looking for a unique point of view on pro sports game analysis? Then tune in to Big C Sports Podcast on iHeartRadio. Get real sports talk worldwide. Miss a live episode? Replay it on demand on the iHeartRadio app. Join Big C, former NFL player and longtime award-winning radio broadcaster, covering all sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, UFC, NCAA, USL, and more. Tune in live or on demand on iHeartRadio podcasts today.